Good morning. Today is Monday, the 27th of April, and today we are in the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, the book of wisdom. We are in chapter 1, and this morning we're going to read verses starting in verse 7 down to verse 19. Verse 7 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother, for they will be a graceful ornament on your head and chains about your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, 'Come with us, let us lie in wait to shed blood, let us lurk secretly for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them alive like Sheol, and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of precious possessions. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in your lot among us. Let us all have one purse." What he's talking about here is joining a gang. That's what he's talking about here. Joining a gang. We're going to rob people and get rich, and we're going to have all things in common. We're going to have one purse. We'll be a family. Verse 15, "My son, do not walk in the way with them. Keep your foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, but they lie in wait for their own blood. They lurk secretly for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone who is greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its owner." I don't know. I know that there's a large enticement to feel part of a group, to feel wanted, to feel important. And that's why there's a lot of ways I could go with this, but I'm just thinking from my own experience. I remember middle school specifically, at that age, wanting to fit in so desperately. And you have, and I don't know how much it's changed. I'm an old man, but you think about, you have the athletic kids. We called them jocks back in my day. And then you had the well-dressed, smart kids. We called those the preppies back in my day. And then you had the ones that weren't either one of those. I guess, I don't know what you would call it, rednecks, or just the average guy. But there's always this allure to fit in. There's a phrase that I've heard bandied around or about at different points, but just the idea that these are my people. These are my people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be family members, right? Although that's part of it, but I think it has more to do with the people I run with, the people I relate to. Well, think about what happens when you have a child who's a little different. Maybe they're a little slow in development. Maybe they haven't hit their growth spurt yet, so they're a little around of the litter. I don't know. Maybe they're from a poor household. That's not a child's fault. And so they don't have the nicest clothes, nice new clothes like some of the other kids. Or they struggle academically because they have a learning disability, whatever it is. But a lot of times those kids, they become disenfranchised. They oftentimes are bullied. And they become the kids who are often drawn to a gang. Sometimes it's a child who's, and this is often the case, often the case when there's a broken home. And so there's no father figure in the home, maybe no mother, or maybe mom's trying to raise the kids, and it's just the kid feels most of the time unjustly. They feel like, oh, I'm all alone, and that's the devil's lies. I can tell you, growing up, my mom's been gone for 50 years. I was in fourth grade when my mother passed away, and I know that sometimes you feel different around other kids when they have their parties and their birthday parties, and they have this and that, and they've got their parents, and both their parents they're big cheerleaders in school, and I could relate to a child who maybe in some ways feel disenfranchised, but I'm so grateful, that I had a nuclear family around me. My grandparents lived right on the other side of the driveway. My aunt and uncle, two of my aunts and uncle lived within a mile of my house growing up. So we never lacked love, my brother and I. And so thank the Lord for that. I thank the Lord for that. And I always am grateful for my Aunt Joyce and Uncle Jerry for when I started to go astray as a freshman in high school, picked me and my brother up on Sunday morning and took us to church. And thankfully, the Lord got a hold of my life. Not every child is so blessed, but as we've read this morning about, don't hang out with with gangs that want to hurt people and rob people, and oh, we're going to have a common purse. All the money we get, we'll share equally. It's a violent alternative to family. But there's a sense of belonging, and that's a real draw to people. A sense of community. We are built that way. God designed us to be part of a family, and we are made for fellowship. And so, just how do we apply this to our life? Just understanding how this works, and be on the lookout for those kids that are disenfranchised. Make them know that they're loved, that they have family. Make them know that they are cared, that there are people who care about them, and that they don't have to seek acceptance from a crowd like that, but they need to find acceptance with God's people if they can find them. And as God's people, we need to be looking to welcome those kind of people in instead of disenfranchising them. How do we identify these people, and how do we embrace them and bring them in? It's something that's needed as we my wife and I currently are teaching at a Christian school. I'm in between churches, and pray for me in that if you would. School year, end of the school year is coming up, and although I've got a preaching engagement this weekend coming up, I don't have anything lined up right now, and I'm really just praying that a church in need of a pastor, because there's literally hundreds of churches that are looking for a pastor, and I'm just praying that God will lead me to where He wants me to serve. I've been praying for 6 months that God will keep me, that I can stay in my home. It's the first home we've ever owned, and first time we've felt like kind of putting down roots, and we are close to our daughter and son-in-law and our grandkids here, so I don't really want to move, but we're not driving, we're just riding. So pray that God will guide and direct us. Feeling part of a community and not getting caught up in a gang. That's what Solomon is talking about here. And isn't it interesting? This was written 3,000 years ago. And what do we see on our televisions? We see these gangs in some of the big cities taking over city blocks. Smash and grab, going into department stores and just, terrorizing the customers there and just grabbing everything that they want, stealing, robbing, coming back and, oh, look what we got, yay, like it's a big joke, but it's describing exactly what we see here in Scripture. And Solomon, under the inspiration of the Spirit, said, do not throw in with that kind of crowd. Don't get involved with it, because that path leads to hell and destruction. Pretty straightforward. That's all I have for today. Hope you have a blessed day. We'll see you again tomorrow.